Like, we are in the process of wanting to design a new relationship. We love one another. We want to be together. We want to raise the boys together and create memories and have an amazing family. Which means if we're going to do that, we have to redesign the way that we've been showing up, which can be hard because it requires you to truly let go of everything that's happened in the past to make room for this new version of us. And so when we went out on date nights just a couple days ago and we finally got away from the kids for the first time in almost 7 months, we were able to go out and grab some tacos, get some drinks, but we were really just able to relax. And it was over our last drink and then going to get ice cream that we were able to just have this conversation about, like, who do we want to be? Welcome back to the Be the Standard podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about disconnection on the home front. Listen, me and Lizzie, we've been disconnected for a minute. We've been having the same fights over and over again, I would say probably for the last 6 months. Having a new baby, it adds some stress to the marriage. Lack of sleep, having to take care of 2 kids, while it's beautiful, it can also be really difficult. When you start to layer in the travel that I've had, going back and forth to California every other week, sometimes 2 weeks in a row, even one time I was out there for 3 weeks, it adds it's not only just disconnection between me and her, but it can add resentment and frustration. And what I've noticed is in our relationship is the repeat of these fights happen at 2 distinct points. 1, as I'm transitioning, getting ready to head back out, and 2, when I come back and we're trying to reintegrate with one another. The reality is these fights continue to happen because we haven't been willing to have some hard conversations about the truth that we know that we've needed to have. We've tried to push it away, and really we've just been in survival mode. And it's hard for me to say that because that's just not who we are. We don't have this victim mentality of like, poor us, or this is so hard. It's really not the case. Like, the general feeling, the general vibe here in this house is like, we're stoked about what we've created, about the boys that we have, what we're pursuing, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that every step along the way is just going to be us being in a place of just gratitude and happiness. It's the furthest thing from the truth. That's just not how life works. The tasks of me being out there working 12, 14, 16-hour days, maybe only being able to connect with her via FaceTime in the morning for 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then late at night, FaceTiming again, saying goodnight to the boys, and then having time to have a telephone call with her after she's getting ready to go to bed, and I'm getting ready to go to bed, and we're just like completely empty. It's hard to connect like that. And so when you have the stressors of solo parenting, and you have the stressors of long days along with personal growth and starting a business and trying to develop a brand and trying to find yourself while she's trying to get her body back and find her own routine and do everything, and it's like we're living 2 different worlds. So of course we feel disconnected. And of course those moments where we're getting ready to go our separate ways are gonna be hard. I'm trying to build the connection and she's, trying to as well, but at the same time, she knows what's coming. So she's a little bit shut down, as to be expected. And when I'm coming home, I'm tired, but I'm also excited. And Lizzie does her best and I do my best to meet each other with open arms. But the reality is we're both probably exhausted. This disconnection and this fighting cycle has been happening for a while now. And 2 weeks ago, we got into 2 major fights. I mean, these were like major blowout fights, and they're hard. What I've noticed though in these fights, and what I've noticed the pattern in the fights that were previous to these ones, is that old stuff from the past still continues to get brought up. I've talked about this on a previous podcast. Lizzie and I spent 2.5 years in couples therapy, along with doing individual therapy, probably to the tune of about $50,000. We joke that if we hadn't gone to couples therapy in 2019, that if 2020 happened and the pandemic shutdown had happened and we hadn't done that, we never would have made it. So I truly believe that couples therapy helped us. And while it helped us create some new ways of having conversations and even stepping into difficult conversations and arguments, even on how to fight while respecting one another, when stress is high and frustrations are high and resentment is present, well, sometimes those rules completely go out the fucking window and you start saying things and maybe even doing things that you don't think you should do or you shouldn't do. And so when I'm noticing things from the past coming up, of things that were said that were hurtful, things that were done that were hurtful, and we're constantly just pointing fingers at one another and holding things from the past over each other's head, it's not healthy. And we've had a conversation around this of like how we have to move through it. But the reality is we finally got to this place of truth. she expressed what she needs: more time with me, more connection with me, not just quality time, but also just like being physical touch. Like she likes to be held and, connected and holding my hand and kissed and like cuddled and all of that type of stuff. And what I'm missing is like, I like to have like words of affirmation. I like her to tell me that I'm doing a good job, that she appreciates me. And at the same time, I like for her to have like come up and give me a hug and hold my hand and give me a kiss and initiate sex. But those things don't happen when you're in this place of just constant disconnection. But what came up for us after these two massive blowouts was like this possibility of what our relationship could look like. Like we are in the process of wanting to design a new relationship. We love one another. We want to be together. We want to raise the boys together and create memories and have an amazing family. Which means if we're going to do that, we have to redesign the way that we've been showing up, which can be hard because it requires you to truly let go of everything that's happened in the past to make room for this new version of us. And so when we went out on date nights just a couple days ago and we finally got away from the kids for the first time in almost 7 months, we were able to go out and grab some tacos, get some drinks, but we were really just able to relax. And it was over our last drink and then going to get ice cream that we were able to just have this conversation about like, who do we want to be? Like, what type of relationship do we want to be? What type of parents do we want to be? What is the message that we want to be able to deliver to our boys? What is the version of us that we want to show off to the world? Because the one we are right now, it's just not working for us anymore. It's as simple as that. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just not working. Like we've evolved. And while we were really close in 2021 into 2022, having kids just changes things. It creates like a disconnection too. And we love them, but the reality is it's like there's less time for us to be able to spend time together, which creates this unique blend of just like disconnection, a yearning for connection. And so when we're designing this new relationship, we're asking ourselves, well, we can't go back to who we were. And that's where we got caught up. We kept thinking like, if we could just go back to how close we were. And I had to remind Lizzie, but we can't. We have 2 boys now. Nor do I want to go back to that because we're different versions of ourselves than we were then. So who do we want to become? What do we want to design moving forward? So we started to talk about just general lifestyle things, like what do we want to do for our own traditions around the holidays? What do we want to do for vacations? What type of experience do we want to give the boys? What do her and I both need in the relationship? And this is where things started to really open up for us. There's this principle that was given to me, and I want to give it to you. And the only way that this works to go from something that's not working to a relationship that is working is we have to establish a new frame. If you have a new frame that you're operating inside, well, then you're playing a new game. New frame, new game. But the frame that we were in has all the stories from our past, all the beliefs from our past, the rules that from our past, and the laws from our past. These are what we're deciding the way that we operated as a couple, both individually and collectively. And so for us to really create this new version of us, this bigger version of, we had to start to ask ourselves, well, what is the stories that are going to run this game? Because your stories are going to be the things that when you don't know what to do, or when there's quiet time, or you're trying to decide how to react or how to respond to a situation, the stories are going to dictate your actions, because the stories almost become like these mantras, and they become the things that you're telling yourself. And these stories are important. One of the things that kind of came up in our mind was relationship rebrand. We, at our foundation, we're fucking great. We're connected, we share values, we know what we want. We're committed to growing together. And so this relationship rebrand idea for us was simple. We wanted to rebrand who we were. We wanted to rebrand the way that we were showing up energetically, everything. So that whenever we're getting ready to get into a situation that would normally start us to either shut down or collide or lead to a fight, or even worse, lead to disconnection, there's this motto that's going on in my mind that's just relationship rebrand. What would I usually do? What was the story I was telling myself? And what do I want to do now? You see, the story that was always going through my mind is she just doesn't get it. She doesn't get the stress that I'm going through being the solo producer of the home, having to make all of the money, traveling all the time, trying to balance being a great dad, an amazing husband, produce, stay in shape, learn about who I am, while all at the same time doing these things collectively. It's exhausting. At the same time, if that's the lens that I'm always looking at her and she doesn't understand me, of course I'm going to be reactive to this. But the reality is, like, she's going through the same thing. Raising the boys, trying to keep the house together, getting her body back together, doing things for herself, making sure that she doesn't get lost, showing up as a good wife, as a good mom. She's going through a lot too. And so this relationship rebrand concept was simply like, what if we just showed up in this thing with like more empathy, more grace, more love, like a team? I want to design a team, like we're moving together, we're going together. And so she got on board and I got on board, and this is where we're at. But in order to get there, there's a few things that we had to do, which is we had to be willing to have the hard conversations. The hard conversations, for so long, we were just avoiding them. We would get into the conversation and then we would turn into an argument. We would never actually get to the truth of what was bothering us. And then we just started to avoid the hard conversations entirely because we didn't want to fight. You just get exhausted, just constantly just colliding with one another and fighting with one another. But the only way to transition and create this new frame so you can play this new game is that we had to be willing to have these deep, hard conversations. Because once you can get to a place of truth, what opens up for you is the opportunity to transform the relationship, to build something different. But until we get to the actual problem and we're just like skirting around it and we're not really just like put it out there, it's tough. One of the things that was bothering me is like we just weren't having enough sex. There was no physical connection. And like, I don't blame her because like there's an emotional piece that has to take place before we move into the physical realm. I'm 100% on board with that. But it doesn't mean I don't have these desires. It doesn't mean I don't get frustrated. And the thing that she expressed that she needs is she's like, I want you to be present. Like when we have quality time, I want you to be present. I want you to be curious. I want you to be present. And she even said this, she's like, it's easier sometimes when you're not here. The kids don't have to like deal with this integration thing. I can just do my own thing. I don't feel like I'm being judged by you in the way I'm showing up and raising the boys and doing things. And that hit my soul, but it's what I needed to hear. And I was grateful for it. I was really grateful for it. At the time it hurt, but I was grateful for it because in order for us to even move past this, those things had to be said. And at the same time, I told her, I was like, you're volatile. I don't know, I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. I feel like every time I express myself, you're just gonna shut down or you're gonna make it about you, and I never feel like I'm ever hurt. And so that landed on her and it didn't feel good either, but what we were left with was an opportunity. And the opportunity that we knew we had to take was simply this, it was forgiveness. You see, these old stories and these old beliefs, and these old rules and laws that define the old game that we were playing in, the only way that we could actually break that frame and let go of it and move to this new version of us, this new version of us that we're trying to create, was we had to truly forgive. The phrase forget, I'll forgive you, but I can't forget about it, or whatever it is, I just butchered it. It's funny. It's not like you're just gonna forgive somebody and the next day you're gonna be like, all right, forgot about it too. And so forgiveness is hard because the moment you forgive somebody, you can no longer hold it over them. You have to truly like release it. And forgiveness can be hard, especially when there's things that maybe you haven't healed over yet, or there's still something alive inside you. But we got to this place where we're both like, if we don't forgive one another, then this cycle that we're in is going to be repeated over and over and over again until we end up in a relationship that we're just staying together for the kids, or we end up separating because we couldn't figure it out. And that's even worse because that's what neither one of us want. And so there has to be this part where you're willing to allow this old version of you, these stories, like your pride, to just fall away, just fully expose yourself and be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done with it, just holding these stories up. I'm forgive you. I'm not going to bring it up ever again, because it's in that place that you're then able to finally create the space to build this new version of you. Now, the last piece of this, and the last part of this that you're going to have to really absorb and take to heart, the first one being the hard conversations, the second one being forgiveness, the third one is being willing to tell your partner what you need. They don't need to guess. So when Lizzie tells me that she needs quality time every single day and she needs physical touch, like, it's very clear, which is why we sit on the couch at night for 30 minutes and we just talk. We'll text throughout the day and we'll talk when we get home. I'll hold her, I'll hug her, I'll give her a kiss. I'll be with her. I'll give her exactly what she needs. Now, that's not how I show love. I show love by doing things around the house, cooking breakfast, cleaning, doing things for her, bringing her coffee, but that's not how she receives love. So I had to like change the way that I approach it. Conversely, I had to tell her what I need. I told her that I need her to tell me that I'm doing a good job. I need to hear it from her. Like, words of affirmation are important to me. Like, they make me feel like you actually see what I'm doing. They make me feel like I'm showing up for the way that you need me to show up. It's confirmation. And at the same time, I need you to be physical too. I need you to come and hold my hand and give me a hug and give me a kiss and make me feel loved. And it's okay to express these things. It was a little weird for me to be like, I need this. I felt kind of like very vulnerable. And I don't mind expressing vulnerability, but in this sense, it was a weird dynamic because I was like, listen, I need this. I need you to give this to me. Now, the words of affirmation piece is big too. And this is the last piece I'm going to leave y'all with. I want you to think about how you speak to your best friend. Like me and my best friends, we send each other memes, and we'll send each other songs. We'll talk shit to one another. It's just this constant, just like, bantering back and forth. But Lizzie and I don't speak that way. We talk about groceries, we talk about chores, we talk about plans. I'm not sending her messages throughout the day or sending her songs or sending her a photo of me or just texting her like I would a best friend. And so here's what I want to encourage you to do. Not just go through the stages of the hard conversation and forgiving one another and explaining what you need, but I want you to transition to this following piece of action. I want you to start texting the person that you love, right? Boys, I want you to text your wife 5 to 7 times a day. A few different texts, maybe a couple voice texts, maybe a couple videos or photos, or even a song. I want you to interact with her like she's your friend, like she's your homie. Build that relationship. If you're going to call her your best friend, then treat her like your best friend. I want you to watch what happens. I want you to watch how the time that you have with her after that becomes just super connected. That you're able to just spend it with her because like you guys feel like you've just built this connection all day. I didn't get this idea. My boy Keith Yackey told me about it, and I'm very grateful for it because ever since I've been doing it, well, our relationship has started to flourish. So this is it. Disconnection in your marriage is normal. Are Lizzie and I going to get disconnected again? Yeah, absolutely. But at least we have an awareness of it. And now that we're in this relationship rebrand, we have a North Star. And that North Star allows us that in those moments of stress, in those moments of frustration, in those moments where we would normally do it this way, we can pivot and do it a different way. So I'm going to leave you with this. What is the hard conversation that you know that you need to have with your wife? And when are you going to have it? If you say anything but today or tomorrow, it's the wrong answer. Listen, I know it's scary, but you got to remember this. You're not fighting her. You're fighting for the relationship that you both deserve. All right. That's all I got. Have an incredible day. I got to go hop on a coaching call. Till next time. Peace.